under pressure following an emergency meeting of G7 leaders to discuss extending the Afghanistan withdrawal date, U.S. President Joe Biden was adamant U.S. troops will be out by August 31st.
The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops.
Still, U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan relies on Taliban cooperation to ensure Kabul's airport remains open. If not, Biden says he's directed the Pentagon to draw up contingency plans. More than 75,000 people have been evacuated since mid-July. Thousands more Afghan and U.S. civilians still surround Hamid Karzai International, hoping to board one of the dozens of U.S. flights out of the country. But escape chances are diminishing. One House Intelligence Committee member said bluntly, not all who want to leave will make Biden's deadline.
Pueden tomar fotos bien, foto. Se le va a dar chance, se le va a dar chance. Por favor. Toma las fotos.
Russia's annual Army Games have opened, a chance to show Russia's military skill and showcase its military cooperation. A fitting backdrop for Russia to ink its newest cooperation pact with Saudi Arabia, as tweeted by the visiting Deputy Saudi Defense Minister.
I signed an agreement today with the Russian Deputy Minister of Defense, Colonel General Alexander Fomin, between the Kingdom and the Russian Federation aimed at developing joint military cooperation between the two countries.
The details of this particular deal were not immediately clear. But for Moscow and Riyadh, this latest move caps years of seeking closer ties. Saudi Arabia is, of course, a traditional ally of the United States. But the Saudis have looked to diversify in recent years, at one point even pledging to buy the Russian S-400 air defense system, a deal that later fell through.
And bad news for the Biden administration after the U.S. Supreme Court reinstated a Trump-era immigration program informally called as the Remain in Mexico policy. A Supreme Court verdict today refused to revoke Donald Trump's migration protection protocols, which forced asylum seekers to stay in Mexico awaiting the hearing. The court, which ruled 6-3 against Biden's bid, had 3 judges appointed by Trump. Several asylum seekers had started to make way into the U.S. under Biden reforms earlier this year. The court took cue from a similar petition by Trump last year when he wanted to rescind Barack Obama's Dreamers project, which protected immigrants from deportation.
Japan has reportedly decided to discharge radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea just 1 kilometer off the coast using an undersea tunnel. Multiple Japanese media outlets report that TEPCO, the plant's operator, will announce their decision as soon as Wednesday to start discharging the contaminated water in spring 2023. TEPCO reportedly aims to submit the plan to Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority as early as next month and will soon start preparing to lay pipes on the seafloor. The plant has been storing some 1 million tons of the water built up since 2011 when a massive earthquake and tsunami destroyed its reactors, contaminating its cooling water.
Charlie Watts, widely regarded as one of the coolest men in rock during his nearly 60 years as a drummer with the Rolling Stones, has died peacefully, surrounded by his family in a London hospital at the age of 80, his spokesperson said on Tuesday. A member of one of the world's most famous and iconic bands, Watts and the early lineup of Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Brian Jones, and Bill Wyman were at the forefront of rock's British invasion of America in the 1960s. The Stones breaking records with multi-million-dollar grossing global tours that continue to this day. Fellow rock superstar Paul McCartney, in a video posted to social media, called Watts' death a huge blow to the Stones.
She was Bolivia's president for almost a year, but now the family of Jeanine Anez says she's struggling in prison. Anez has been under preventive detention for 5 months. On Saturday, she had to be rushed to a hospital after an attempt to take her own life. Days of chaos and violence took over the streets of Bolivia in 2019, when President Evo Morales was asked to resign by the armed forces after a controversial re-election bid. Anez was sworn in as president, but Morales supporters took to the streets to demand his return. At least 20 people were killed in confrontations with security forces. Prosecutors blame Anez for authorizing the armed forces to fire against the unarmed protesters and accused her of genocide.
A small plane has made an emergency landing in Del Mar right now. This is off Interstate 5. This is in the San Diego area. The 2 occupants of the aircraft appear to be unhurt. That's according to the CHP. There were no immediate reports of injuries to anyone else. All southbound lanes on the freeway are closed due to the blockage of lanes, but you can see the cones surrounding that plane right there. Flight radar shows that small plane with a private owner matching the tail number took off from Montgomery and landed on the interstate shortly after 12 o'clock today. It's now 1:30 there in California, almost 1:30.